So, Reclamation Algorithm 2.0 came out on CN a couple of days ago. As a devout hater, I thought I'd give it a preview so I can hate on it early. I played it for about an hour and a half, talked with a few other people for their experience, and here is my summary of it. I'll get the unambiguous positives out of the way first. Even though it annoyed me to play the tutorial again, because there was no skip option, the new one is much better. It doesn't take as long and just tells you feed operators like these, hit 3 wet operators, and build this stuff for water, because buckets are still lost technology. Granted, a piece of burnt toast would be a more useful tutorial than the first one, but this one seems functional at least. They have vastly improved the UI. Looking through the base and finding the stuff you need is way easier now. You can see the actual map on preview before you go in, and we can have 7 squads instead of just 3. That's the undeniable positives out of the way. So what exactly is different in the gameplay? There are new maps and some old ones are recycled with new enemies, typical sequel event stuff. There's 2 big changes. First, the food system has been reworked. Food isn't tracked for every individual operator, instead going into any map except encounters or the market will consume food based on the squad size. The minimum consumption is always 2 food for 0 to 6 operators, meaning you can't bring only mining drones like you could in RA1, since it would cost the same as using 6 operators. There is never any reason to use less than 6 operators, because the cost doesn't change. You can only use operators once a day and then they have to rest. I assume there's some cookable food that removes this, but I haven't seen it myself. The system means there's a lot less planning and micromanagement in regards to what ops you bring to a mission. In R81 it was always beneficial to use as few operators as possible to conserve food. This does not mean that it's easier or more new player friendly. It's entirely possible to softwalk yourself for several turns if you aren't careful with your food. 2 food units equals 6 grains, and the base produces 2 grains of food by default. So if you run out without any other source, it will take you at least 3 days until you can do anything on the map. It's very important to proactively hunt food early on. You might be thinking to yourself, how is this any different from RA1? The first few runs were ass until you had 12 farms and then the food didn't matter. Yeah, about that. Here's the other big change. The only thing that is saved between runs is your technology points. Stuff you place in your base isn't saved between runs. This might seem like an awful change, and maybe it is, but it's not as bad as you might think. In RA1 there was an end to every run, where a big boss wave shows up and tries to kill you. This doesn't happen in RA2. There is no end to the runs, so you can play every event in one single run. On top of that, RA2 auto-saves the game every 3 days. If you die, you can vote either of the last 2 saves and try again from there. Clearly the intent is to clear the entire mode in a single run. If you hated the first event and cheesed it by quitting out to clear the rewards, the same strategy will work just fine in RA2 though. The idea behind this change is that you only have to do the boring bit of RA only once, where you're farming wood with operators. Because you're only meant to do it once, however, there are some roadblocks meant to slow down your progression. You need to upgrade the base to unlock new constructs, and most of the constructs are more expensive. The first mining drone requires metal, for example. The story quests are simpler to get through. You can't make a wrong choice in dialogue that forces you to reset the run. Once you pass certain points in the story, you will unlock new areas, so the map is far larger than RA1. As I was making this video, I found out they hotfixed in an easy mode. On-it enemies have no stats and you gather resources faster, so it's closer to the story mode from the main chapters than an actual easy difficulty. You get the same points on easy, so there's no reason to play hard mode other than for the gameplay challenge. A 6-day save point is long enough that you should be able to correct most of the mistakes, and once you get past the annoying early part, it should be a better experience, since you won't have to go to the beginning over and over to progress. Though I'd heavily recommend you follow some guide to get past the early game. Imagine if you play for 2 hours just to get the early game cleared and then get softwalk on some hard wave you can't beat. All that brain-dead grinding flushed down the toilet. While I think the changes are mostly positive, whether it's good or not will depend if the content deeper into a run is worth doing. We'll find out when it comes to Ian. That's about all I could learn in an hour. What do you think about the changes? I'm curious to know.